I'm Cindy Wenzlau, and my husband and I are owners of a small family vineyard, a 100-acre property with 12 acres of fruit, 5 acres Chardonnay, 7 acres Pinot Noir. In the Santa Rita Hills, a tiny little AVA outside of Lompoc, California, along the Central Coast. It really is 3 businesses in one, and you have to get yourself very well schooled on those 3 aspects of running a vineyard: the farming, the winemaking, and the marketing. I will still say everything starts with farming. It's the most important thing we do. It is where the bulk of our resources go. So farming was very important to us because we felt committed to whatever the vines were going to produce. We were going to live with that. And I like to look at it like a present you open on Christmas morning. That's what the 2012 is going to taste like. It's going to taste like 2012, the farming year. Whether it was a warm year, whether it was a wet year, cold, long growing season, short growing season, you are going to have that reflected in the final product. We have 5 acres of Chardonnay, and it's planted right on the silty, sandy banks of the San Ynez River. Lompoc is in this area where you are facing south to the ocean, but you're also facing west. So you have the ocean influence coming at you from 2 sides. And so that is the primary influence, I would say, of our farming, is our proximity to the ocean. And we have foggy nights, and the fog burns off mid to late morning, almost like clockwork, almost every single day of the year. We're committed to this small scale. As I said, 5 acres of Chardonnay down on the banks of the San Ynez River, 7 acres of Pinot Noir, about 450 feet vertically up a steep canyon, surrounded by 88 acres of open space. Very healthy ecosystem. That's part of our commitment, was to make sure that we had a lot of open space surrounding our vines, that they themselves are divided up into a couple of different blocks. So there's open space between the blocks, and then there's 88 acres of open space down to the river and up the canyons. The open space that surrounds our blocks of vines, and particularly that really rough open canyon where the wind blows through our Pinot Noir, has that same effect from a climate standpoint that the fog and breeze have on the Chardonnay on the lower vineyard. The upper vineyard is hanging on for dear life. The wind gets extremely strong. Well, not only is that fantastic for air circulation, flapping the canopy, because we leave our canopy on, the leaf cover over the clusters of fruit, because there's so much movement with the wind. The benefits are that kind of blowing unwanted pests away, dropping the day-to-day temperature down, giving that cool climate benefit where your growing season for the fruit is longer, because the days, even those afternoons that get warm, are briefer, because your mornings have fog, your afternoons have wind. So the benefits to that for both the Chardonnay, but in particular the Pinot Noir, which is a very thin-skinned fruit, so it's very finicky. Having that breeze hit those Pinot grapes as they develop allows for a lot of complexity within the fruit, because it can hang on the vine for so long without getting overripe, which is the biggest danger when you're growing Pinot Noir. Everybody hears about, oh, what are the 2 most important things when you have a vineyard? Number 1, make sure you plant the right plant in the right place. Otherwise, don't fight Mother Nature. Take my word for it. She'll win every time. And number 2, pick your pick date, right? So once we bring the fruit in, it's a very exciting time because this is really what you've been working for your whole farming, growing season. It still doesn't get old. I still am so excited to see the fruit come in. What's it look like this year? Was it a warm year, dry year, cold year, wet year? Does that mean the berries are a little smaller, a little plumper? Is the color going to be good because there's more skin contact when the berries are small, or the tannin's going to be higher? All of these things you are now able to see in a large scale, as opposed to just checking out a cluster as you walk down the vines, the rows of vines. You learn a lot about what the year was like by looking at your blocks of fruit as they get harvested. The winemaking begins. Depending on which block, which variety you're harvesting, your practices are a little different. We bring the Chardonnay in, we hand sort on a table, and as we sort, we're putting the Chardonnay grapes right into the press. They get pressed immediately and put down in barrel. That means the juice comes out and it's pumped into our Chardonnay barrels, and it ferments in barrel. In Pinot, it's more subtle because the skins are thinner. Tannins are a benefit for ageability of the wine, and so having a little extra with a little extra stem contact for us, we feel like with our cool climate, we naturally have higher acids. That helps with ageability. A little extra tannins balances out that acidity and brightness to the wine. So we've actually really liked working with stems with our Pinot Noir. The smell of fermentation in the cellar, once you are in this adventure, is something that you just look forward to. It's just alive. Things are happening, and it's just a very exciting time, because this is where the fruit that you were just growing a couple weeks ago is now turning into wine. I love wine with an extra punch of brightness. I find it extremely food friendly that way, the way it cleanses your palate between bites. And that's really what our style is, in that Burgundian style where all of our wine is really meant to be enjoyed around the table with food. Comes in a little bit lower alcohol because of the cold climate we grow in, and that we think is a benefit to pair with food. We set aside some of the sparkling wine that's been disgorged, and we top off just with more of the sparkling wine, so that there's truly nothing else in the bottle except that wine from that year. And so it's that hyper-focused single block, single vintage, single vineyard, no dosage product that we feel is the most authentic product that you can produce from a farm when you're a grower producer. That you've done nothing to it except present the juice from the fruit that was grown on your farm. And I want to drink wine like that. And I want my friends and family, I want to feel good about what I'm serving them when we're serving our wine. And that's really the big motivation. And people that buy our wine, I want them to feel good about serving it. So that's really the motivation behind our whole philosophy for our wines on no manipulation. But it comes to a very high point with the sparkling wine because of that process of taking 4 to 5 years to get it out to the market. The only way you can really control the juice in the bottle is by farming the fruit that you bring in, and then you're really controlling the quality of the fruit and the health of the vines. And nobody else really does that. The farmer wants to sell the fruit for as much as they can get and have those vines produce as much, and the winemaker without property wants to find the best deal for the fruit and get as much as he can because he needs to make ends meet for his own business. So the grower producer is somebody who really wants those vines to last as long as they can, So they work really hard to keep the vines healthy and produce the highest quality fruit they can, because they're making their own wine from that fruit. Because we really want to commit and recommit ourselves every year to that site-specific wine where there's no manipulation to mask anything that we might have done. So that's why we have to do everything really well. Cheers.